Orenthal James Simpson was a completely different person in the eyes of the world before the events of June 17, 1994. He was a football star, an actor, and a hero to the American people, especially black Americans. He was a black man who came from the projects and became rich and successful. A black man who was able to overcome the adversity and racism in America. From the outside, he was the ultimate embodiment of the American dream, but his personal life was anything but. And the persona he portrayed to the people disappeared the day his ex-wife and her friends' bodies were found dead on the sidewalk of 875 South Bundy Drive in Brentwood, Los Angeles, California. It all started in 1977, the year that O.J. Simpson met Nicole Brown, who at the time was only 18 years old. Although he was 12 years her senior and married, the two began a relationship. O.J. divorced his first wife and married Nicole in 1985. To the public eye, they seemed to be a great couple. Two attractive and successful people in love with two beautiful children. But anyone close to them knew that their relationship was extremely toxic. Throughout their marriage, police were called for domestic violence multiple times.
Emergency. Can you get someone over here now to 325 Gretna Green? He's back. Please.
Well, okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson. I think you know his record. Could you just send somebody over? You're going to hear him in a minute. He's about to come in again.
Okay, just stay on the line.
I don't want to stay on the line. He's going to beat the shit.
Wait a minute. Wait, just stay on the line so we...
And in 1989, O.J. pleaded no contest to charges of domestic violence. Friends and family of Nicole said that it was clear there was as much emotional abuse as there was physical.
She tried to leave, and I truly don't believe, and this is the first time I think I'm actually admitting this, that I don't believe that she would have ever gotten away from this monster, ever. She couldn't. People loved him. Who was Nicole? She was his wife.
Eventually, Nicole filed for divorce in 1992. And the pair split for good the following year. It seemed that O.J. and Nicole were finally going their separate ways after almost 15 years. It was just after midnight on June 13, 1994, that Nicole's dog led neighbors to the gruesome crime scene. There was Nicole lying on her side in the fetal position. Her throat had been cut, and she was almost decapitated. Because her jugular vein had been slashed, there was an enormous amount of blood. Ron Goldman's body was discovered close by in the bushes. Mr. Goldman had fought back, but eventually succumbed to the damage done by the stabbing. Police failed as soon as they arrived at the crime scene. There were numerous crucial pieces of evidence found that were mishandled and therefore deemed inadmissible in court. The detectives made no effort to establish an official chain of custody, separate evidence was bagged together, and photos were not logged correctly, all of which delegitimizes the forensics in court. There was a bloody fingerprint on Nicole's gateway that was never secured and eventually lost. They even used a blanket from inside to cover up Nicole's body, causing all the evidence on her body to be contaminated. Even a sample of O.J.'s blood was lost and fueled the idea that the police planted evidence against him. If it wasn't for the black glove found at the crime scene that could be tied to O.J., there may have been no evidence that could officially connect him at all. On June 17th, the 1994 NBA Finals coverage was interrupted by the news that O.J. was in a police chase in the infamous white Bronco after refusing to turn himself in. Ultimately, he was caught, but O.J. had already made himself look extremely guilty in the eyes of the American people by running, and everyone already had an opinion on what they believe happened. Throughout the trial, there were multiple complications. The location of the trial shifted from Santa Monica to downtown Los Angeles. Jurors were constantly being exchanged, and it was very difficult to find a jury of unbiased peers because the case had been so publicized. On top of suspicions of evidence planting from the LAPD due to mishandling, it was exposed during the trial that Detective Mark Furman, who had been heavily involved in the case, was recorded making racist comments. This gave the defense even more support to establish reasonable doubt that O.J. could have been framed. Although there was solid DNA evidence that linked O.J. to the crime, DNA was not seen as legitimate at the time, as most people didn't understand the science behind it since it was so new. To the people, it was much more believable that if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Guys, it makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
In the end, the jury still felt there was too much error in the case, and that the window of doubt was too large to convict him. O.J. Simpson was acquitted of the murders of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman on October 3, 1995.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
The reactions were all over the place. Some people were overjoyed that he was a free man, while others were shocked he could get away with it. To understand the outcome of the O.J. trial, it's important to understand the heightened racial tensions in Los Angeles at the time. The city was still recovering from the aftermath of the Rodney King riots, sparked by the continuous and systematic racism of the LAPD. Police brutality was rampant at the time, and black people, despite decades since the end of segregation and implementation of equal rights, were still being treated as second-class citizens. At the time of the crime, 76% of white people believed that O.J. was guilty, while 78% of black people believed he was innocent. To a lot of people, it didn't matter whether O.J. was guilty or not, because O.J.'s acquittal seemed like a fair price to pay for years of inequality in the justice system against black people. Jurors involved in the trial have even admitted that they felt the acquittal of O.J. was retribution for acquittal of the white cops involved in the Rodney King beating. The O.J. Simpson trial became known as the trial of the century, captivating the masses and dividing the people. 25 years later, people are still arguing over the outcome of the trial. A once beloved football player and American icon, O.J. will forever go down as one of the most notorious symbols of racial division in modern American history, whether he was guilty or not.